Hi everyone, it's Sandy Freshy back with another video about self-care. Last week I posted a video that I did as a Facebook Live about self-care. Actually, I think it was called Habits, Self-Care, and the Change of Seasons, because we are in the Northern Hemisphere right at the beginning of the autumn season. So this is a time seasonally of transition. And it's also a great time, whether you're seeing this in September of 2018 or you're seeing it in March of 2021, it's still a great time. If you're feeling this need to up level and upgrade your self-care, it's a great time to look inside and see what has changed. Just like the seasons change, internally we have changes as well. And a lot of times when those changes happen, there's an opportunity to evaluate what is working and what's not working in the way that you tend to yourself and in your self-care practices. So last week I gave you a question, and I want to rephrase that question because I think it was a little bit abstract. So the question for you, and I have another one actually after this that goes into our topic for today, which is, by the way, self-care should be simple. So getting back to the question, number one, what habits and practices do you have that no longer support your well-being? So you can take that in, take a deep breath, maybe you want to even take some notes on it. What habits and practices do you currently have that no longer support your well-being? Now, maybe they did at some point in the past. Maybe, whatever it is that you did, maybe you made it a habit to go to the gym every day. But maybe that's not working so well anymore because you've shifted careers or you have a family and something about that needs to change. Or maybe you had a certain diet or a certain sleep pattern or something else that you did that or are doing that actually doesn't really work for you. Maybe they're habits that aren't really the healthiest, but you could get by with it because of your lifestyle maybe last year or 6 months ago. So just take a minute or take that question into some quiet time, some reflection time, and really evaluate what practices or habits do you have currently that are no longer fully supporting your well-being. So that's kind of the foundation of what we're talking about in terms of making a shift into an upgraded way of self-care. And this is part of a series that I'm doing where that's supporting a bigger program called the Self-Care Reboot. And if you were on the Facebook Live or you saw that video, you kind of know what that's about. So this video, which is about making self-care simple, is kind of in response to some of the concerns that I got from some of you about entering into a month-long process of revamping your self-care. So first of all, I want to make the distinction between a reboot, which is what I'm calling the self-care reboot, and a boot camp. Because when you engage in taking care of yourself, when you really engage in embracing and bringing out and developing what really fully supports your sense of well-being, it should kind of be enjoyable. So a boot camp to me is not enjoyable. I went through boot camp. And when I was in the military, so I can tell you firsthand that a boot camp, there is nothing fun about a boot camp. And when you're in a place where you really do need to evaluate and make some changes about how you're taking care of yourself, you're already feeling pressured. So your self-care, the shift in your self-care habits, the changes that you need to make, when you're feeling that pressure, when you're actually in the midst of stress, and maybe your schedule has gotten crazy, you know, because you're in the midst of this change, and everything is kind of has been shaken up in terms of your foundation, and it's hard for you to actually carve out enough time and energy to look at what's going on. But you know it's essential. You know it's essential in order to establish that stronger foundation for this next phase of your life, for the next season that you're moving into. So I got a lot of concerns about, well, will I actually do this? Will I, you know, do I have the energy to do this? And I want to assure you that if you actually do the self-care reboot, and all of you need to kind of take that in and see if it's really something that will really benefit you at this time. We're going to do a series on self-care anyway through these videos throughout October. But if you want to do the deep dive, it's not going to be a boot camp. It's going to be a reboot. Like when you turn your computer off, give it a little pause. And for you, you know, you're kind of taking an hour a week, or maybe an hour and 15 minutes, because I have little exercises for you to sort of turn off the noise and take a little pause and reflect on what's happening and what needs to shift and change, and doing it in a very specific and focused way so that you're not wasting a lot of time trying to weed through things, weed through the confusion. We're actually going to go through a process where you can identify, you know, what you've let pile up, you know, what habits you've kind of gotten a little lax on, that you can begin to work on one by one, not all at once, just one by one, to gently begin to turn the boat around, or shift the boat into the direction where the current is that's going to take you into that next phase or that next season in your life. So these exercises that you get, well, you'll get them actually once a week, and they'll take no more than 5 to 15 minutes. And then if you want to come to the weekly live, let me rephrase that. You're going to get a video that talks about each exercise too. So maybe 20 minutes, okay, to sit and do the exercise, to really take a time to reflect on it. And then if you come to the live calls, it's going to be about an hour of your time. So if this is really intriguing you, if you feel like it's time for you to do this, then yes, please consider that it will only take about an hour and 20, maybe an hour and a half if you want to be luxurious about it, a week, to get specific about what your priorities are, what you need to practice, or what you've been practicing that you need to change or shift. What is next on your list, or not next on your list, but really kind of the top thing that would actually help you to align the most. And when I'm talking about alignment, I'm talking about aligning with your energy type and really living more of who you are. And even though this isn't a human design program, we're going to talk a little bit about, you know, what are you doing that's in alignment with your human design type strategy and authority, and what can you throw out that's not. And then toward the end, you're going to get some specific assistance with developing your daily self-care habits, or if you already have specific self-care habits, how you can upgrade those so that you have a stronger sense of support for yourself. So that's how, if you're doing the self-care reboot, how simple it can be. And if you're just following along with the videos, I want to give you another question that goes along with what habits and practices do you have that no longer support your well-being? The second question is, how can you simplify the way that you take care of yourself? How can you simplify your self-care program so that you actually do it? You know, a lot of times we get overwhelmed, especially when you're making a change or when things have piled up. And it's important to take time to weed through, get rid of things, and allow yourself to strip down your self-care practices to the bare bones of what you can actually do, what is doable for you, what's fun for you, what's enjoyable for you, and what allows you to have more enjoyment in your life. So how can you simplify your self-care practices so that you actually do them? So take some time with that. Once you identify the habits and the practices that you currently have that aren't supporting you, what can you take away? What can you strip away? And if you're joining us for the Self-Care Reboot, there's actually an exercise in here and that we're going to be working on to get you to that point where you can identify what is working, what's not, what can I not do, what is more in alignment with what I can do, and what's actually doable for me at this point. So that's it for now. I'd love to hear your comments about your reflections on these questions. And if you have any questions about the Self-Care Reboot, please don't hesitate to ask. So until the next time, be well.